Rancher refused every woman, until an Apache widow asked, "You want a wife or just shelter?" In a quiet part of the countryside far away from the busy towns and cities there was a ranch. This ranch was a large piece of land where cattle roamed freely and tall grass waved gently in the wind. The sun would rise and set over the hills, painting the sky with beautiful colors every morning and night. On this ranch lived a man who many people in the nearby towns knew, but didn't fully understand. He was a rancher, strong and quiet, with eyes that seemed to carry many stories. But what most people talked about wasn't his skill with cattle or his hard work. It was how he refused to marry any woman who came near him. The rancher's name was Jack. He was known for being stubborn, serious, and very private. Jack had lived on this land for many years, taking care of the animals and the earth. He enjoyed the peacefulness of his life, away from the noise and trouble of the world. Jack believed that living alone was the best way to keep his heart safe. Over the years, many women had come to his ranch, hoping to marry him or start a family together. But every time Jack said no. Not once had he changed his mind. People whispered about Jack. Some said he was too proud. Others thought he was afraid of love. Still others believed he had been hurt in the past and didn't want to feel that pain again. No one really knew the truth, but one thing was clear. Jack was a man who stood by his choice. Jack's days were simple, but full of work. He woke up early each morning, just as the sun began to rise, and headed outside to check on his cattle. The animals were his responsibility, and he took this very seriously. He walked through the fields making sure none of the cows were missing and that the fences were strong. He mended broken fences and cleared the paths where the cattle walked. Sometimes the work was hard and tiring, but Jack didn't complain. This land was his home, and he was proud of it. Despite the hard work, Jack often felt lonely. The long days and quiet nights made him think about what life might have been like if he had someone to share it with. But he always pushed these thoughts away. For Jack, the pain of losing love was stronger than the happiness it might bring. Bannock. He believed that keeping his heart closed was the safest choice. One spring morning, Jack was sitting on the porch of his small wooden house, drinking coffee and watching the sun slowly climb into the sky. The air was cool and fresh, filled with the sweet smell of wildflowers and the sound of birds singing. The quiet was broken by the sound of a horse's hooves on the dirt road. Jack looked up and saw a woman riding toward his ranch. She was dressed simply, but with a quiet strength in her eyes. Jack had seen many women before, but something about this one was different. She rode steadily and confidently, as if she belonged to the land just like he did. Jack stood up and waited to see what she wanted. The woman stopped her horse near the gate and nodded politely. "I'm looking for shelter," she said quietly. "I don't have much, but I can work hard. I need a place to stay." Jack looked at her carefully. He could see the tiredness in her face and the quiet hope in her voice. She did not ask for marriage or promises. She only wanted shelter. This was the first time in many years that a woman had come to him without asking for more than he could give. For a moment Jack thought about turning her away. It was his habit. But something inside him told him to listen. "You'll have shelter," he said simply, "but this is no easy place. You'll have to work." The woman smiled, a small but strong smile. "I'm ready." Jack helped her down from the horse and showed her the small guest room he kept for visitors. It was simple but clean, with a bed, a chair, and a small window that looked out over the fields. As the woman unpacked a few belongings, Jack prepared some food for them both. They ate quietly, each lost in their own thoughts. Over the next few days, the woman worked hard. She helped with the chores, feeding the animals, cleaning the barn, fixing fences. Jack watched her carefully. She was not like the other women who had come before. She did not expect special treatment or complain about the hard work. She moved with a quiet strength and a calm that made Jack feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. Respect, but Jack kept his distance. He was still careful not to let her get too close. He wasn't ready to open his heart again. He had seen too much pain to risk it. The woman noticed Jack's coldness, but didn't say much. She understood that he had reasons for being this way. Instead, she focused on proving herself. She wanted Jack to see her not just as a guest, but as a partner, someone who could stand beside him through hard times. One evening, as the sun was setting, Jack found himself sitting beside the woman on the porch. The sky was painted with soft oranges and purples, and a gentle breeze moved through the trees. For a moment, they both sat in silence, watching the colors change. Then the woman broke the silence. "Why do you refuse every woman who comes here?" she asked gently. "What are you afraid of?" Jack looked at her, surprised by the question. He thought about all the times he had said no, all the reasons he had kept his heart closed. But he didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked out over the land, as if searching for the words. "I've been hurt before," he finally said. "I lost someone I loved a long time ago. Since then, I've been afraid to let anyone in. It's easier to be alone than to lose again." The woman nodded, understanding more than Jack expected. Sometimes people want a wife but are afraid to love. Other times, they want shelter, but not a partner. Which one do you want? Jack was quiet. Her question was simple but hard to answer. He wasn't sure if he wanted a wife or if he just wanted shelter from the loneliness that crept into his life every night. That night, Jack thought about the woman's words long after she had gone to bed. For the first time in many years, he felt a flicker of hope, a small light in the darkness he had lived in for so long. Maybe there was more to life than loneliness and fear. Maybe there was a chance to heal. As the stars shone brightly overhead, Jack realized that this woman was different. She was not like the others. She didn't just want shelter, she wanted something real. And maybe, just maybe, he was ready to find out what that could be. The days after the widow arrived were different from anything Jack had known before. Her name was Maya. She moved with a quiet strength that made it clear she had faced many hard times. But she never let those times make her weak. She did not ask for much, and she did not complain about the hard work she was given. Instead, she showed up every day, ready to help and to do her best. At first, Jack kept his distance. He watched her quietly, seeing how she worked without asking for special treatment. Maya knew how to care for animals, how to fix things, and how to move around the ranch like she had been born there. Jack was surprised by her skills. Many women who had come to the ranch before could barely handle the work, but Maya was different. She was strong, careful, and calm. Jack still did not say much. He had a habit of keeping his thoughts to himself, especially when it came to feelings. But Maya was patient. She did not try to push or rush him. Instead, she spoke gently and clearly whenever she talked to him. Her words were honest, and that honesty made Jack start to lower his guard, little by little. One afternoon, as the sun shone bright and warm, Jack and Maya worked side by side in the barn. The smell of hay and fresh wood filled the air. Maya was cleaning the stalls while Jack fixed a broken fence outside. They worked quietly, but Jack noticed that Maya had a way of making the hard work seem lighter. After a while, Jack stopped what he was doing and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He looked at Maya and said, "You're good at this. I didn't expect it." Maya smiled softly. "I've had to learn fast. Life doesn't give many chances to rest." Jack looked away for a moment, then asked quietly, "What made you come here? Why leave your home?" Maya's eyes darkened with memories, but she answered honestly, "My husband died a year ago. I had no family left, no home. I needed a place to start over. This land, it seemed like a place where I could find peace." Jack felt a pang in his chest. He understood loss too well. He said nothing, but Maya could see the sadness in his eyes. The days passed, and the routine of ranch life continued. Maya and Jack worked together, and slowly, the silence between them grew comfortable. Jack began to share small things about the ranch, stories of the land, the animals, and the people he used to know. Maya listened carefully, and sometimes she shared her own stories, soft and quiet like the wind. One evening, after a long day, Jack invited Maya to sit by the fire outside his house. The flames flickered and danced, casting warm light on their faces. The night was calm, and the stars shone like tiny diamonds above them. Maya looked at Jack and said, "You've been alone a long time. Do you ever wish for someone to share this life with?" Jack hesitated. For years he had built walls around his heart, afraid to let anyone in. But hearing Maya's question made him think about what he really wanted. "I don't know," he said slowly. "I've been hurt before. It's easier to be alone than to risk losing someone again." Maya nodded, understanding his fear. Love can be hard, but it can also heal. Sometimes we have to take a chance to find peace. Jack looked at her and saw the hope in her eyes. It was different from the hope he had felt before. This hope did not demand anything. It simply waited. The next morning, Maya woke early to care for the animals. Jack was already outside, checking the fences. She joined him, and together they walked through the fields, talking about the land and the seasons. As they worked, Maya asked Jack more about his past. Slowly, he began to open up. He told her about the woman he had loved long ago, the pain of losing her, and why he had chosen to live alone since then. His voice was soft, and for the first time in a long time he shared his heart with someone else. Maya listened without judgment. She did not try to fix his pain, but simply held space for it. Her presence was quiet and steady, like a gentle river that could soften even the hardest stones. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between Jack and Maya grew stronger. They were still careful with their feelings, but the walls around Jack's heart began to crumble. Maya's kindness and strength helped him believe that maybe, just maybe, he could trust again. One afternoon, a storm rolled in over the hills. The wind howled, and rain began to fall in heavy sheets. Jack and Maya worked quickly to secure the animals and shelter the equipment. The storm was fierce, but inside the small house, they sat close together, warmed by the fire and each other's company. In that moment, Jack realized something important. Maya was not just shelter from the storm. She was a partner who stood by him, no matter what. When the storm passed and the sun returned, Jack looked at Maya with new eyes. He saw a future he had never allowed himself to imagine, a future where he was not alone. But old fears did not disappear overnight. Jack still struggled with the idea of opening his heart fully. He worried about the risks, about the pain that might come. Maya understood this. She never rushed him or asked for promises. She simply stayed by his side, steady and patient. One evening, as they watched the sunset together, Maya asked Jack again, "Do you want a wife or just shelter?" Jack thought carefully before answering. This time he did not look away. He looked into Maya's eyes and said, "I think I want more than shelter." Maya smiled, a smile full of warmth and hope. "Then let's take it one day at a time." Jack nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. He knew the road ahead would not be easy, but with Maya by his side, he was ready to try. The ranch, once quiet and lonely, began to feel alive with new possibilities. The land was still wild and free, but now it held a promise of love and healing. Jack and Maya, two souls who had known loss and pain, were starting to build something together, a life where trust and hope could grow. And so, the story of the lone rancher and the brave widow continued, a story of courage, patience, and the power of a gentle heart to change even the hardest of lives. The days went by, and the quiet ranch began to change in small but meaningful ways. Jack and Maya were still learning about each other, taking things slowly as they shared their lives on the land. The work was still hard, but with two people, the tasks felt lighter and the days felt brighter. Maya had become a part of the ranch. She knew the animals by name and routine. She could tell when a cow was sick or when a fence needed urgent fixing. Jack was impressed by her knowledge and how quickly she adapted to ranch life. More than that, he admired her patience. Maya never rushed him, never pushed him to talk about things he was not ready for. She just stayed close, steady, and kind. Jack, too, began to change. The walls he had built around his heart were starting to crack, but old fears still lingered. Some mornings he woke up feeling unsure about what he wanted. The past still haunted him, memories of pain and loss that he could not forget. But Maya's quiet presence gave him strength. It was as if her calm was a shield that kept the darkness away. even if only for a little while. One afternoon, as the sun began to lower in the sky, Jack and Maya sat by the small creek that ran near the edge of the ranch. The water was clear and cool, flowing gently over smooth stones. They had spent the day fixing a broken gate, their hands tired but their spirits lifted by working together. Maya threw a small pebble into the water and watched the ripples spread. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked softly. Jack looked at her, then out over the fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. "Sometimes," he said, "but it's hard to imagine anything different from how things have been. I'm not used to hoping for more." Maya smiled gently. "It's okay to hope, Jack. We don't have to know exactly what the future will bring, but we can believe that good things are possible." Jack's eyes met hers, and for a moment he saw a light in her that made him feel safe. He wanted to believe her, but the fear of being hurt again made his heart hesitate. That night, Jack found himself lying awake, thinking about Maya's words. For years, he had shut himself off from love because he was afraid. But now, he realized that staying closed was also a kind of pain. The loneliness was a heavy weight, and maybe, just maybe, opening his heart was the way to set it down. The next morning, Jack started sharing more of himself with Maya. He told her stories from his childhood, about the ranch his family had built and the hard lessons he had learned. Maya listened closely, sometimes asking questions that helped him remember happy moments too. Maya shared her past as well. She spoke about her life before the ranch, the village she had lived in, her husband, and the life they had dreamed of before loss came. Her voice was steady, but filled with emotion. Jack could see the strength it took for her to speak of such painful memories, and it made him respect her even more. As the days passed, they began to rely on each other more. Maya was no longer just a helper. She was a true partner. They worked side by side, sharing laughter and quiet moments, building a life together on the land. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with warm colors, Jack invited Maya inside the small house for dinner. It was a simple meal, but the feeling was different from before. There was warmth in the air, a sense of comfort and belonging. After they finished eating, Maya looked at Jack and said, "You don't have to carry everything alone anymore. We can face the hard times together." Jack smiled, feeling a relief he hadn't known was possible. "I want that," he said quietly. "I want to trust again." But even as Jack spoke these words, the past still cast a shadow. He worried about what others might think. Neighbors who had watched him refuse women for years. He feared failure, the pain of losing love again, and the challenge of opening up to someone new. Maya understood these fears. One afternoon, she sat beside Jack on the porch and said, "Everyone has a past, Jack, but the future is ours to write. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be honest." Jack looked at her and nodded. Her words were simple but powerful. He realized that honesty was the key. Honesty with himself and with Maya. In the following weeks, their relationship deepened. They began to share not just work and stories, but dreams and hopes. Jack talked about his desire to make the ranch a home filled with life and love. Maya dreamed of planting a garden and maybe even raising children. Together, they faced challenges too. There were days when the work was overwhelming, or when old fears crept back in. But instead of facing these moments alone, they leaned on each other. One cold morning, a visitor came to the ranch, a neighbor from the nearby town. He brought news that the local community was planning a gathering and invited Jack and Maya to join. Jack hesitated. He was used to keeping to himself and was not sure if he wanted to be part of the crowd. Maya encouraged him gently. "It's time to connect, Jack. People will see who you are now." After some thought, Jack agreed to go. The gathering was lively, full of music, laughter, and friendly faces. Jack and Maya stood together, and for the first time, Jack felt proud to be seen with someone who mattered to him. Some neighbors smiled and nodded in approval, while others looked surprised. But Jack didn't mind. He had found something more important than approval. He had found a partner who made him stronger. That night, as they returned to the quiet of the ranch, Jack turned to Maya and said, "Thank you for helping me see that life can be different. Maya smiled and took his hand. We're building something new, Jack, one day at a time. The ranch, once a place of loneliness and pain, was becoming a home filled with hope and love. Jack and Maya were no longer two people carrying heavy hearts alone. They were a team, ready to face whatever came next together. And so their story continued, one of trust growing slowly, of old wounds healing, and of two souls finding strength in each other's company. The days grew warmer and the ranch was alive with the sounds of spring. Jack and Maya worked together from morning until evening, their bond growing stronger with every shared task. But beneath the surface of their peaceful life, both carried heavy memories they could not forget. It was time for them to face their pasts if they wanted to move forward. One afternoon, as they repaired a fence near the edge of the property, Maya stopped and looked at Jack with a serious expression. "Jack," she said softly, "we can't keep running from what happened before. If we want to build something real, we have to face those memories." Jack sighed deeply. He knew she was right, but the thought of opening old wounds scared him. "It's not easy," he admitted. "Some things are better left in the past." Maya shook her head gently. "The past will always be there, but it won't control us if we face it together." That evening, they sat by the fire outside the house, the sky dark and full of stars. The warm glow of the flames made the night feel calm, but inside Jack's heart, a storm was brewing. Jack began to speak, his voice low and steady. He told Maya about the woman he had loved long ago. Her name was Sarah. They had grown up together and dreamed of a life filled with happiness. But one winter she fell seriously ill. Jack had done everything he could to save her, but she passed away. The pain of losing her had been so great that he had shut himself off from love ever since. Maya listened closely, her eyes full of sympathy. "I'm sorry you had to lose her," she said softly. "That kind of loss changes a person." Jack nodded. "It changed me. I stopped believing that love was worth the pain." Then it was Maya's turn. She shared her story, her voice steady but filled with quiet sorrow. She spoke about her husband, a kind man who had been taken from her too soon. After his death, Maya had nowhere to go and no family to turn to. She had wandered for months, searching for a place where she could heal. When she found Jack's ranch, she saw hope. Jack reached out and took her hand. "We've both been hurt," he said. "But maybe that means we can understand each other better." Maya squeezed his hand gently. "We can be stronger together." In the days that followed, Jack and Maya worked to heal the wounds of their pasts. Sometimes the pain was hard to bear, and tears came unexpectedly. But they faced these moments with courage, knowing that sharing their feelings made them closer. One morning, as the sun rose over the hills, Jack and Maya walked through the fields, talking about their dreams for the future. Jack spoke of his hope to expand the ranch, to bring new life to the land. Maya dreamed of planting a garden filled with flowers and vegetables, a place where they could enjoy the fruits of their labor. Their plans were simple but full of meaning. For the first time in many years, Jack felt a spark of excitement about what lay ahead. But healing was not always easy. There were days when old fears returned. Jack sometimes worried that he was not worthy of love. Maya sometimes feared losing him like she had lost others. One afternoon, after a long day of work, Maya found Jack sitting alone by the creek, staring into the water. She sat beside him quietly. After a moment, she said, "It's okay to be afraid, but don't let fear keep you from living." Jack looked at her and smiled faintly. "Ha! I want to believe that. I really do." Maya rested her head on his shoulder. "We'll face our fears together." Their relationship deepened as they shared both joy and sadness. They celebrated small victories, like fixing a broken fence or helping a calf learn to walk. They comforted each other during quiet, difficult moments. One day, Jack invited Maya to visit the nearby town with him. It was a place he had avoided for years, afraid of the memories it held. But Maya encouraged him, reminding him that facing the past was part of healing. At the town market, Jack and Maya walked hand in hand, greeting neighbors and meeting new people. Jack felt nervous at first, But Maya's presence gave him confidence. For the first time, he felt part of a community again. That evening, as they returned to the ranch, Jack looked at Maya with gratitude. "Thank you for helping me find my way back." Maya smiled warmly. "You helped me find hope, too." Their bond grew stronger, built on trust and understanding. They were no longer two people carrying their pain alone. Together, they found strength in love and healing. As the seasons changed, so did Jack and Maya's lives. The ranch flourished, and their hearts began to heal. They knew challenges would come, but they were ready to face them side by side. And so, their story continued. A story of courage, forgiveness, and the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. The days on the ranch had grown warmer, and everything felt different now. The land, once quiet and lonely, was alive with the sound of laughter and work shared by two people who had found each other. Jack and Maya had traveled a long road, from pain and fear to trust and hope. Now, they stood ready to face the future together. Jack had spent many years closing his heart, afraid of losing again. But Maya's presence had shown him that love could be a gentle strength, not just a risk. The walls he built around himself were gone, replaced by something new, an open heart, ready to live and love. Maya, too, had changed. She had come to the ranch looking for shelter, but she found so much more. She found a partner who respected her, who shared her dreams, and who stood beside her in every step. The life they were building was far from perfect, but it was real and full of meaning. One morning, as the sun rose and painted the sky in soft pinks and oranges, Jack and Maya walked hand in hand through the fields. The air was fresh and smelled of earth and wildflowers. Their cattle grazed peacefully nearby, and the gentle breeze carried the songs of birds. Jack stopped and looked at Maya with a smile. "We've come a long way," he said. "I never thought I'd find this kind of happiness again." Maya smiled back. "Neither did I. But sometimes the hardest paths lead us to the best places." They walked a little further and reached a garden Maya had started planting. Rows of green shoots pushed through the soil, vegetables, herbs, and bright flowers that promised a good harvest. The garden was a symbol of their new life, growing slowly but surely. Jack knelt beside the plants, brushing soil from his hands. "This garden, it's more than just plants. It's hope." Maya nodded. "Hope and a future we can share." The days that followed were filled with work and plans. Jack and Maya repaired old fences, tended the animals, and prepared for the coming seasons. They talked often about their dreams. Maybe one day they would have children, a home filled with laughter and love. One afternoon, a visitor came to the ranch. It was an old friend of Jack's, a man who had known him long before the years of loneliness. The friend had heard about Maya and came to see the changes for himself. Jack was nervous but proud to introduce Maya. The friend smiled warmly, seeing the happiness in Jack's eyes and the quiet strength in Maya's. "You found something special," he said. Jack nodded. "Yes, I have, and I'm not letting it go." As the sun set that evening, Jack and Maya sat on the porch, watching the sky turn deep blue. The stars began to twinkle, and the world felt peaceful. Maya leaned her head on Jack's shoulder. "We've both been through so much." Jack kissed her forehead gently. "But together we've found a new beginning." Their story was not just about a rancher and a widow. It was about two people who had faced loss, pain, and fear, and had chosen to trust again. It was about the power of love to heal and transform. Jack and Maya knew that life would bring challenges. There would be hard days and difficult decisions, but they also knew that together they could overcome anything. In the quiet moments, they often reflected on how far they had come. From the first day Maya arrived asking for shelter, to now, when they built a life filled with respect, kindness, and hope. The ranch was no longer just a place of work. It was a home, a sanctuary, and a symbol of new beginnings. Jack looked at Maya and smiled. "Thank you for staying, for believing." Maya smiled back, her eyes full of love. Thank you for opening your heart. And so, the rancher who once refused every woman had found his wife. Not just a shelter, but a true partner. Together, they faced the future, hand in hand, ready for whatever came next. Their story was one of courage, healing, and the quiet strength of two hearts coming together to build a life worth living.